If you had tuned into part 1, you'll recall that Terri Lambe was discussing the realities of mergers and acquisitions in veterinary medicine. Terri shares her unique journey into the M&A space and offers an inside look at what practice owners experience. We pick back up in part 2, discussing how to prepare a team for the conversation around a potential sale.
Yes. It's so interesting to me because naturally this podcast is focused on leadership, but all of these different nuances that a leader would encounter impact leadership and the teams and all of the things. And I just can't help but think, okay, what would the ideal scenario look like? Number one, we already know that in general, so it's an umbrella statement, not all, but many leaders lack the training or toolbox to have difficult conversations. Therefore, they avoid them. I can't help but imagine as a selling owner, it's a pretty difficult conversation to tell your team, who you probably love and adore, that you are selling to corporate, right? The big C word. And I think because of that fear or uneasiness or lack of knowledge of how to even approach it, now we're just perpetuating this narrative of evil corporate. Corporate's not evil. You can have great corporate partners. You have to do your homework, just like you're kind of a relationship expert when it comes to matchmaking these individuals. I think both parties need to be engaged and involved in finding the right cultural and partner match. And with that said, wouldn't it be amazing to be able to be forthcoming to your team as an owner, express to them the why. Why are you looking to potentially merge with another company? What's important to you? Share that with them. Wouldn't it be great if they could share with us as a selling owner what's important to them? People do not like when things are done to them and there is a lack of power. We make it scary. Now it feels secretive, and now they resist because they weren't prepared for this mentally. Like you pulled the rug out from under them, and now who can they trust if they can't trust their beloved selling owner? I'm not saying everyone can sit at the table and have the conversation, even with yourself. But I'm saying, wouldn't it be so powerful if we could have a team meeting or multiple team meetings where we just engage in conversation and give them the floor to talk about, well, what would be something you would hope for? Would you like maybe improved medical benefits? Would that be of interest? Is anybody curious about a 401k? What could that look like? What would different types of leadership support look like? There's so many resources that a consolidator can bring to the table, and it's going to require the education on all sides, but also for that leader to kind of be the shepherd of their team, who they've built that trust up over years, versus I almost feel like it's like they parachute out of it, right? Like, oh God, it's really scary, but I'm gone. And then the team's like, wait, what? We're owned by somebody, and they're freaking out.
Right, right. And when that level of trust is developed and you have that established long before, even with new employees, as there is turnover at times, and recruiting, as we know, that landscape has changed a lot, and it's harder to keep employees, and it's harder to make them happy, and it's harder to retain them. That even if we're having those conversations, it's an ongoing dialogue. It's not something that is just a yesterday thing and then we don't address it again. It's truly having that open dialogue, and it's carving out the time to do so. To add to that too, it's the power of inclusion. When people feel included along the way, because they're the people building the practice too. They're building that practice alongside of you. So even with including them prior, it does help create that trust and cohesiveness, so that when something does transition, they trust your judgment and they trust what that looks like. And they don't feel as panicked by it. Or even simple conversations where I've had scenarios where like somebody would come on board from another consolidator and they had a good or bad experience. So then that can impact the transition of another hospital who's not even picking that group. And it's one out of a million that's out there that looks very different. And so Usually it's I've been through the integration process with them on the buyer side as well. And so it's trying to diffuse that for them. It's trying to say, hey, just give this a chance. I've worked behind the curtain. They're not all created equally. And I've been in the trenches with a lot of them. So you can understand some of those variations, but also not panic about it. And like, just give it a chance. It's like anything else. Like every company, every business, every entity is different. And you kind of have to look at it that way, but preparing the staff to do that is very helpful and giving them that power of inclusion. Because when people are excluded, as you know, it causes silos, it causes fear for them to speak up and be open about things. And sometimes the things that they want to be open about is something to fix a gap in the practice. That can be very helpful because they're at a bird's eye level where, hey, there's this gap and you've got people in the practice who are really good at that. Like, because you as an owner may not have the time and capability to see that, but they can help you bridge some of those gaps to align things as well long before. And that momentum.
Terri, with your role and your experience, what does a strong advisor owner partnership look like? I'm just thinking maybe we have current private owners that have thought about pursuing a merger with a consolidator, but maybe they weren't fully aware that there's even an advisor that could help guide them through that process.
Well, I think first understanding too, for them, the term broker and advisor is kind of used interchangeably. A broker, typically, if you look at how they're defined, a broker is transaction based, get the deal done. An advisor is more in the trenches for the relational parts of it and a lot of what we do. At the end of the day, like with Legacy, yes, the deal has to close. So there is a component that even as an advisor, that you have to be broker minded and on both sides. And so there's groups out there, and I've worked with some really good groups out there. I have some mentors on that side of the business that, you know, I'm still in touch with, and we all have collaborated and stuff. And I've seen what some of those partnerships look like from a buyer's perspective because I've gotten the packages from the broker. I've seen what the information looked like or how they advised them or not through the process. And sometimes on the buyer side, I felt like I was having to arm them with more knowledge in a sense than they were getting from their advisor. There's some great ones out there that were very thorough, loved their packages. There were some who were not so thorough, and some of the things within their process may have created roadblocks, or it wasn't the information that the owners needed and it didn't arm them with enough coming to the table, or just really helping them navigate the process in a way that was as positive as it could be. And so I think from that perspective, and if you look at all the sides of it, and really what we strive to do as well, we all came from the consolidator space. Our CEO and founder came from the consolidator space. He worked for a different one. He was an analyst, and his passion was driven by the same things as mine to join this side of the table, which was, how can we do this well? We feel like we can do it well. We can do it at a level that really represents the client well and helps them gather all these pieces. And it's a partnership. We're representing you. We're not representing the consolidator. And I think that's sometimes a misconception, but we're representing you and we're helping you get through this process to optimize your outcome. We're not trying to take control from you. We're here to walk alongside you as a partner to guide you through this process and help you ask the best questions, help to match you with the right fit opportunities together for you, and help you get acquainted with these groups so that you can also make your own decisions as well. We're not trying to make the decision for you. We're there to help you navigate it all so that you're armed with the knowledge for the best outcome, not only for you and your practice value, but also your staff and what that looks like for your future and theirs. And so I think that the key word would be more of a partnership and helping them navigate that. It's not that we're trying to take over control. And we work with their accountant, we work with their attorney. It's a lot of pieces to the puzzle, and there's a lot of participants that come to the table to make this happen. And we all work together, and we're a liaison in that process to help them. We do valuations and we help them with the consultative work going forward. But then when it comes time to partner in the process and pick an opportunity, sign the papers, move forward and get through due diligence, we're in the trenches with them. We're not just leaving them to figure it out on their own. So I think that's a big part of it, is really being a partner to them and helping them understand we're there for their support, however that looks. And again, sometimes those situations are very unique in each one.
Sure. I want to shift gears slightly here. I've sometimes heard the phrase, it's just business. Well, of course, that can feel very dismissive, right? Your experience, what does that statement mean to you when you hear that?
Well, it hits a nerve. It's funny. That statement has always hit a nerve for me. It's always been a pain point for me. And I think the reason why is because it's always, if it's stated most of the time, it's usually to justify a loophole. It's usually a disclaimer to say, well, it's just business, don't take it personal. And if you understand business, you know that there are decisions that have to be made, and especially if you're backed by private equity and different things. If you understand that there is a responsibility to also produce funding for that company so that it can keep moving, so the momentum can keep going, and so that you don't have to let go of all the employees and just close shop, because then you're not benefiting anyone. And especially if you're doing something that's a positive thing and you're a positive partner for someone, then that means that impacts so many other people. For me, I think it's more about how it's done, because you can do business with integrity. If you go back to the historical perspective of when that statement originated, it was an accountant on the criminal side of things back in the 90s. Otto Berman is kind of where they traced that statement back to, right? And so it's often implying that personal feelings are irrelevant when they are, because business is personal, right? You're affecting and you're impacting people on a daily basis, and they're impacting your business. And depending on how you do business, because there is a way, and nobody's going to get it perfect. There's going to be scenarios where they're like, you provoke thought for somebody and they're like, I didn't think of that. Maybe I could have handled that a little bit better, right? Or things like that. But I think at the end of the day, if you strive to handle business with integrity, then you look at the human side of it and you see that there is a human side, and how you approach that and handle it. And I've had to speak up for those things before throughout my career, where I've said, we can't do it this way. You've got to consider just this and this. Were they armed with the knowledge ahead of time to know this, or how are we going to execute this? Because at the end of the day, and especially now, as you know, in the mental health landscape that we have, and the stressors that everybody's dealing with, and the pressures that look a lot different, it seems like people talk about that they care about that, but then they say, well, it's just business. So, okay, well, let's put your money where your mouth is. And are you handling something in a way that represents that you do recognize the human side of it, and you do recognize that component that, okay, well, this is something that has to happen, but how can we handle that to make that at least a little bit smoother for who it's going to impact, or maybe it's or resources or whatever that looks like. And so I think it's the statement that bothers me, not always the intent, but more of the statement, because anytime that I've ever heard it throughout my career, not just to me, but like to other people, and I'm typically that mouthpiece to say, well, hang on a second, because you do have to think about that.
Yeah.
And you do have to consider what that looks like. And at the end of the day, if you don't get that. And so even when, back in the 1930s, when Otto Berman brought about the statement, supposedly that's where we can trace it back to. Back then, even the corporate social responsibility concept wasn't around. That didn't come around until the 1950s. And that has since incredibly evolved to now as to what we look at for, instead of it looking like profits, and that's the only thing that's the responsibility. Now we see that organizations have a lot more responsibility to a lot of other things because of our society, and because we also know that the way we impact people impacts the bottom line, and they helped you build that, whether they were there for a season, long term, whatever that looks like. The people on the ground helped you brand your business, and hopefully in a good way, and having good employees and that kind of thing. But again, and of course there's those unique situations, but I just really think that's why that statement has been a pain point for me.
Good to me to bring it up. That's what I'm here for. Terri, for anyone listening, particularly a current private practice owner who maybe is dabbling with the thought of a transition in the next couple of years, what should they start doing today?
Start preparing. So I always tell people, just like when you have to be an advocate for your own health, right? That's a standard statement we hear in healthcare. And this is no different. You have to advocate for yourself and your business. And part of that is the preparation. It's the research. Yes, we are going to provide you with a lot of information and we're going to help you navigate that. But certainly deciphering it on your own makes those conversations better. It helps you ask good questions. I have calls with some owners who have done their homework and they're fleshing out some of this information. And we're able to really kind of close the gap on some of the specific things that they're looking for, or some of the misconceptions. We can really address them right out of the gate. And then there's others where we have to kind of start from a very fundamental, basic perspective and go all the way. We love doing both, so it's good for me either way. However, if you arm yourself, then those conversations can certainly benefit you on your side that much more. And the other thing too is abandon the misconception, again, that a broker or advisor, the right broker is going to be a partner with you, and it's going to be a positive experience. They're going to help you optimize the outcome. Okay. It's like anything else. You have to interview, you have to check references, and you have to make a selection that you're comfortable with and find out what is going to be a fit for you, and then make your selection, and then get evaluation. Each group has different packages. We have packages that offer valuations and consultation forward, for many years to come. And if you're ready for a sale, we can pivot to that piece of it, whether you pivot now or later down the road, come back to us then, or there's been a gap in that timeline, whatever that looks like for you. But we're there to get their valuation done to at least see what your value is today. And it's a value that's established with not only the veterinary industry and the value that it should be, because there's a wide array of gaps. And like even when I was on the buyer side, we might get in something from a broker that their EBITDA would be in close alignment with ours. And then there's others that were, hundreds of thousands of dollars off. And sometimes it's just one little thing and they're like, oh yeah, I should have moved this to this column. But sometimes it is a wide gap that you really have to have a lot of meetings to sort of align, and there still may not be alignment. And so because we did come from the consolidator side, we know what they look for. Our values are in alignment with what that looks like and what it should be. And that's a good starting point. And even if you want to sell to a private buyer, you at least have that to know exactly how your practice stands today, getting that valuation. If there's areas that we can help you tweak and give you that consultative feedback, we're here to do that and help them sort of prepare that way. But I think it's basically taking the step to prepare and recruiting a partner to help you navigate the process and getting your valuation done and having those conversations, letting us schedule that introduction call. That's something that is just basically us getting to know each other. Let's just get to know each other. We will let you know if there's a situation where we're like, well, maybe do this for about 6 months and then let's do the valuation then.
Right.
So, and a good advisor or broker on your side is going to do that. They're not going to just say, they're not going to set everything on fire for everybody, right? They're going to be very realistic and they're going to work with your timeline, but also educate you well. But part of that is starting the process. And the other thing, like we talked about earlier, is don't wait to prepare staff, because even if you're preparing them silently, you've prepared them ahead, that creates that structure, that cohesiveness, so that not everybody hits the panic button, right? So it's getting that preparation done while you're taking the steps to also move forward with whatever you want to do. Get evaluation, pivot to a sale, whatever your life circumstances are telling you and what the landscape is telling you. And we have some people that come to us and get valuations and decide to pivot more immediately to a sale, and then some, or say, I want to explore my options. Okay, great. We'll put our feelers out for you. Or some of them want to wait. So just doing something. And the other thing I will say, and this one is really important because I've had to have tough conversations about this. I have to have the tough conversations too, Bridget.
Good. It's not just me.
Right, exactly. So it's interesting because when you have, I think the misconception too is that a lot of owners, if they're co-owners, if they're connected as family or whatever, and you've got owners from a broad spectrum that maybe one wants to inherit the practice, but they don't have the capital. And in doing that, that means, well, okay, great. One's like, well, I'm okay with that, but then they're at retirement age and they won't get any retirement and this is their life's work. And then you have another partner who, whether they want to stay or they're like, no, I'm ready to go and I want to get my piece of the pie. Sometimes if they're not in alignment, like having the cohesiveness and being on the same page, because here's the deal, we can help each one of you. And that's the thing. You can have some retirement. You can get paid for your life's work. You can have the benefit of partnering into a practice. If you don't have capital, we have other resources where we can help with that too and make those connections. And so it's giving the opportunity for everybody to have the piece of the pie that they want and that will make them happy. But in doing that, they really have to come together. And I have had to have that difficult conversation before where at the end of the day, I've had to say, look, we really want to help you and we can help you and we can make all of you happy and we can do something for each of you. However, I need y'all to be on the same page. I'm a chaplain. I've done a lot of things on that side of the fence. I'm a mental health first aid instructor, things like that. And some of those things I've armed myself with just so that for those additional components to be able to counsel with people and help them. And I'm like, and I've been in the legal field and, done mediation and all those things, conflict resolution. I'm like, I'll help you. We'll take the time needed and we'll get this gap bridge. Let's have the conversations. But if one of you has the conversations with me and this one's not wanting to have the conversation, or this one maybe they're like, okay, well, whatever. I need y'all to be on the same page. We need to have the conversation. And if 2 or 3 of y'all are owners, we want you to be on the same page because we don't want to take you to the table to a corporate buying partner or a consolidator. That will blow the deal for something, right? It will change the landscape of what the deal structure may look like, or the value, the monetary value, or it may cause them to pull out, right?
Yeah.
Fortunately, we've not had that happen on the broker side. So we've been very fortunate, and Legacy, that's not our trajectory. However, we try to arm them with that information ahead of time. And it's difficult because we want to be able to move forward and help them, but we have to, I always say, help us help you. And in doing that, we'll help you get there. We'll have conversations. I'll help you. Ask me the tough questions. That's fine. And we'll get through this. But we've got to get you here before we can take you here.
Yes. Yeah. It's not the time to be shy about your needs or desires. It's a time to be very transparent and forthcoming so that, to your point, we can make sure that everybody that's a part of that deal is ultimately as happy as possible.
Right. Absolutely.
What legacy do you hope your work leaves in this space?
That's a tricky question, Bridget. It's probably not the same answer that you probably get from a lot of people. I look at life a little bit differently, and I always have. Birds of a feather, sometimes think the same way I do. But I think the biggest statement for me is the statement or the quote you've always heard, leave people better off than you found them. In the M&A space, I have the opportunity to do that because I have owners now that are retired and living their best life, and they've supported and rewarded their staff. And there's a lot of positive things that have come about from all of that. And so that's what I have to leave in the M&A space. But it's not just the transitions that I deal with from practice owners and their hospitals. It's the people like you that I meet on a daily basis, or through my travel, or from somebody who's coordinating events and serving meals to us, or on a flight somewhere. I feel like life's purpose really for all of us is the intersections that our jobs and our pathways create for us. And that while we're in that space, whether it's for a season or a longer time, we have the opportunity to intersect with greatness, to be greatness for someone else that day, or to be encouraged by someone else. And, I think our relationship is a prime example of that. We've worked together in previous years and we didn't really know each other, and we got acquainted from industry. And being open and receptive to seeing what we both had to offer, we've been able to develop a really fun friendship, right? We live across the nation from each other and all that kind of stuff, and I have friends across the nation everywhere I go that are connections for me. And whether it's, even at our conferences and stuff, you'd never know what people are going through.
Sure.
And always intersecting with people and just being able to recognize that, hey, I see you, like, I see you today, and how can I leave you better? And when I leave this earth, this whatever, when my time is up, when my season is up, I want people to remember how I made them feel. And I hope that that's something very positive, whether it was a kind word or I helped them retire and they're living in the tropics somewhere. Whatever that looks like, that they were encouraged by my presence while they were able to intersect with me and be with me.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Terri, I can attest that you have already done that to probably more people than you know. I think that is one of the reasons that you and I developed this friendship is really, for me, you have just always been somebody not only with a great fashion sense, so I'm just going to throw that out there, but that really composes yourself and conducts yourself in a way of integrity and love and truth. And you're just such a warm presence to be around. And that's why, again, yes, you're bringing so much knowledge to this conversation today, but also it's my honor to kind of put you out there for potential selling owners that don't even know about Legacy Vet or Terri Lambe, because if they are going to align with an advisor or seek out a conversation, I can't help but personally encourage it be with somebody like you, if not specifically you, because I know they'll be in good hands. And I think for both of us, that's one of the things that drives us forward is we want to see the veterinary industry in a better place than where it historically has been or even where it is today. And part of that is making sure that we're helping contribute to these connections of good people doing business with other good people. Terri, thank you so much. Of course, I will share your contact information. I hope that people do use this as a resource and take advantage of that and reach out to you in the very least, just to connect and talk with you. But thank you so much. It was so intriguing.
Thank you, Bridget. And I have to say too, the same for you. I think authentic connections are the best connections when you can be really transparent and when you take a chance on somebody else. I appreciate you taking the chance on me and being open and receptive to even my engagement with you early on to get to know you.
Yeah.
And that you were willing to also get to know me and invest in me. And I value that so much because who knew today we would be sitting here doing this. And as you know, we could talk about so many things we could be talking about, even outside of the M&A space.
Yeah.
And I too love your fashion sense.
Oh.
Thanks for the bow tie. I love that.
For you, yes.
But I feel the same way, and I'm really excited that you're doing this and bringing it to the table for so many of us out there, that you chose to feature me today and what Legacy does, and just kind of, being able to collaborate, because that's a lot of fun, and especially collaborate with someone who is a like-minded, and you've added so much to even the commentary with our discussion and the things I've said. I will say from the concept of like continuing education, just to put it out there, I will be speaking and doing 2 CE breakouts at a conference in Nashville, at Fetch Nashville, in the end of May.
Okay.
So I'm excited to be doing that. Long time coming. So I'm very excited to be doing that. And it's really to educate people whether or not they're looking for a private buyer. It's just really to inform them of what this space looks like, kind of like what we talked about today. And looking at it through, one segment is through the seller's lens and one is through the buyer's lens, and helping them understand a little bit more about it, hopefully in terms that make sense to them and that arms them with some information and opens up even more conversations. So excited to do that. And certainly if people are going to that conference, if they would just check that and sign up for those, I would love your support. It will be great to see a lot of owners in that forum. And it's been a minute since I've done that. So this will be a really fun time to really engage with them at a conference in that way as well. Yeah. So definitely hope they can make it. But thank you so much, Bridget. I really enjoyed this and have enjoyed listening to your other podcasts. So I love the topics and the engagement that you've gotten from people and the interaction. So I have enjoyed listening to some of those.
Thank you. It's been fun for sure.